Okay, welcome. I cannot even get to see all of your all's faces. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Debbie Podlogar. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm so happy tonight we are doing a Zoom, a classics with a twist. Ian Blessing from All the Bitter agreed to join me, and Ian, I'm so happy to do this with you tonight. So
I am too. I've been so pumped, like just counting down the days for
so
the
excited.
last few weeks.
Do you want to tell everybody what you did in your Ian is at, if you have not purchased All the Bitter, he is right there where they make all the bitter, where they make the non-alcoholic bitters. And what did you do today? You baptized
I'm not even sure
your entire space with 5 gallons of bitters. Is that what happened over
I'm
there?
not even sure where to start. I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning with 2 toddlers, and then Carly and I came to work and we shipped 150 boxes of bitters, lavender and chocolate mole bitters to people all over the country. What else? We do so much crazy stuff in this space. It's unreal. We used to be, if you see the window behind us, we're actually in a shared commercial kitchen space, and we were back there in about 150 square feet. And we made and shipped 30,000 bottles of bitters in 2022 in our first year from that 150 square foot space in a shared kitchen. And after the year was over, we said, we need more space. This is insane. We've outgrown this. And so we moved into this room. So still in a shared kitchen, but a private space. So we can do things like this. And we were able to upgrade to larger tanks and to a basket press and to a big pump and to all these things that we needed to make our process a little more efficient. And almost more importantly, to be able to do
our live, but we're just going to have a good time. I'll share a little bit, maybe Ian, I'll share my story just real quick, like how I got involved in this industry, and then I'll have you share how you got in this space, and then we'll make some drinks. Okay. So I'm Debbie Podlogar. I live outside Louisville, Kentucky. I never in a million years thought I would be talking to anybody about non-alcoholic drinks. I spent about 9 years drinking way more than I ever intended to, and officially broke up with Chardonnay, my BFF, December 31st, 2020. And I thought I was just going to take a little break. I did not think I would, continue on an alcohol-free journey. I just wanted to try to moderate, but I felt so good that I just kept going. And so wherever you are on your journey of, exploring mocktails, happy that you are here. You don't have to be sober or totally alcohol free. We just want people, to learn tonight and to see the fun of other options that are out there, non-alcoholic, using non-alcoholic bitters and non-alcoholic spirits, and that you can have delicious mocktails that don't have alcohol, obviously, don't have alcohol, but still taste delicious. So anyway, I'm a mom. I have 2 girls. I'm in my daughter, she's in college. I'm in her bedroom. I have my little podcast studio here now that she's off to school. And I have a 15-year-old who's a sophomore in high school. And I am married to my Match.com sweetheart. And about 10 days into my alcohol-free journey, I started sharing the drinks that I was finding on Instagram. And so that's how I got kind of in this space and just started sharing. I just wanted to encourage people that you can find good things to drink, and there's options out there, and that there's still fun to be had. So and then in January of this year, I started a podcast, Thriving Alcohol Free with Mocktail Mom, and a membership. So I see several members here, and we have a happy half hour on Thursday nights where we make a drink and just connect and just encourage one another. Fun's not over. So that's kind of my story, super quick. But Ian, I'll turn it over to you if you want to share how you got in this space and how you started, and your background. Your background is phenomenal. I'm not a mixologist. I'm not a bartender. I'm just a mom that drank too much wine and broke up. That's all. And Ian is the exact opposite. He's the total professional.
Professional is being very generous, but this is what I did for a long time. First of all, I love your story so much, and I'm gonna get choked up. Being on this journey with you and with everybody in this community for the past couple of years has been one of the greatest surprises of my life and the greatest pleasures that I've experienced. In the same way that you could not have imagined being here at this point, when we tell people from our former life that we make non-alcoholic cocktail bitters now, it's the absolute weirdest thing, but it's like the weirdest phrase I've ever told anybody. So my background, I met my wife, Carly, and my business partner, Carly, working at the French Laundry as sommeliers in 2016. So I started drinking, when I was 18, and immediately, that first sip was like, okay, this is all I'm doing for the rest of my life. I'm just going to be drunk all the time. And of course, it's not a conscious thought like that, but I drank way too much for my entire adult life. And, I'll be absolutely honest. I was a functional alcoholic. I was able to continue my career. I was able to advance in my career, working in bars and restaurants. I was able to make it work for me. I never hit a rock bottom. I don't have that rock bottom story that some people do, but I spent every day, all day, either working and selling alcohol or drinking alcohol, and eventually turned that into a career in wine. I realized one day that I knew nothing about wine. I was incredibly well versed in beer and spirits and cocktails and restaurants and hospitality, but I couldn't tell you the first thing about wine. And so I opened a book and I started studying, and I fell in love with the story of wine, the history, the places, the people. And I also really liked that I got to drink wine at noon and call it studying. I got to read a book and sit with a glass of wine, and half an hour later, I'd be, half a bottle deep. And at 1 o'clock, I was like, oh, I can't study anymore because I'm drunk now. Anyway, I was able to make it work, and I did very well. And I moved up in my career. I found a job at the French Laundry. I ended up as a somm there. And loved it and loved my career. But when Carly and I had kids, it became very obvious very quickly that we could not drink anymore. I couldn't keep drinking the way that I was. And so we both quit drinking together at the same time.
Really?
We didn't drink through, both of us really. I cut down on it. We both kind of quit drinking. I kind of quit drinking. Carly did, of course, entirely during her pregnancy. But after we had our first son, Jack, we kind of, we went back to the same life that we were living. And a few months later, it was like, yeah, this is not going to work out for us. So, no rock bottom exactly, but it was, that was the wake up call that I needed to realize and understand that what I was doing wasn't okay, and that something needed to change. So we both quit drinking entirely, and we did kind of all the recovery things. We went to meetings and we drank a lot of black coffee. And about 6 months in, I discovered alcohol-free beer and realized that we got to continue enjoying the same drinks and flavors and rituals and the same life that we had before, but without the negative impacts, without waking up hungover. We got to be parents, we got to be present. I wasn't drunk all day, but I still got to enjoy amazing drinks and amazing flavors. I could still go to the beach and enjoy a beer. And that led to spirits and non-alcoholic cocktails, and building a bar at home with 30, 40, 50 bottles of non-alcoholic spirits. And for the first time, really diving into cocktails in a way that I didn't before, because I couldn't keep a bar stocked at home. If I bought a bottle of whiskey, it would be gone in a couple of days. So I was never able to make drinks at home. I made drinks at work. I served drinks at work, but it was nothing that I ever got into.
Interesting.
As a hobby, at home. And getting into non-alcoholic spirits, I was finally able to keep these things on the shelf, and was finally able to start making drinks and really having fun with it, and diving into the history and the whys and the hows, and why certain cocktails work and how they work and how flavor works and how these ingredients work together, and realized that there weren't very many options for alcohol-free bitters. And it was the middle of the pandemic, and we didn't really know what we were going to do with our lives. We didn't want to work in restaurants anymore because we have 2 small kids, and decided to make non-alcoholic cocktail bitters. And so we started testing recipes in our kitchen, and worked up through recipes over the course of a year, and launched them in January of 2022.
Amazing. Because this was like, most people were making sourdough bread, right? Or doing stuff during the pandemic, and you guys were figuring out non-alcoholic bitters. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. Sourdough was we tried sourdough, but it was a little too messy for us. We didn't quite have the patience.
Hopefully this is more lucrative for you. Hopefully.
It is. It's going much better for us than the sourdough.
I'm so happy. And then yesterday you launched a chocolate bitter. Is that right? A chocolate, which I ordered a bottle. Chocolate. I'm so happy. I can't wait to get it.
Chocolate and lavender. The chocolate will be gone probably in a couple days. So if you want chocolate mole bitters, I would recommend getting them now. Lavender is not going anywhere. So lavender was the first addition to the main lineup. So lavender was a small release, but it was so popular that we brought it back. and brought it back in a full bottling. So lavender is a permanent addition.
It's delicious.
Chocolate mole was just 250 bottles. We will bring it back at some point, I'm sure, but probably not for another year or so.
Awesome. Okay. And I know there is one question. I don't know if you want to answer it now or want to wait till later after we make our drinks, but somebody was asking me earlier today for the lavender and the chocolate. Are there certain mocktails you would recommend to make using those two non-alcoholic bitters? I don't know if you want to answer that now or you want to wait till later.
Yeah, for lavender, I would say any gin-based drink or if you are still drinking, anything with vodka, there's not really a non-alcoholic vodka, but like a vodka tonic, vodka soda would be a great addition to it. Any non-alcoholic gin cocktail, a gin and tonic, something like a bee's knees.
Oh yeah,
which we can talk about. We'll get to, or like a gimlet, any gin-based drink.
Okay.
But to be honest, the lavender bitters, and they make a great cocktail addition, but simply mixed with soda water and a squeeze of lemon.
I had that today. Ian, I made that
good.
today. It was so delicious. It was so good. It's just the perfect drink. So simple. Yeah.
They're two flavors that go together for a reason.
Yeah.
And you don't need to get any more complicated than that. Sparkling water and lavender bitters on its own is great. Add a squeeze of lemon, takes it up a little bit.
Yep.
If you want to add a little bit of simple syrup, a little sweetener, that'll take it up even more, kind of a lavender lemonade style, but you don't need to include that. You can keep it low calorie, you can keep it really dry. But that's the easiest thing to use it with.
Yeah, I had that today. I didn't even put the simple syrup in. It was delicious.
Yeah, you don't even need it. And then with the mole bitters, anything whiskey based or anything like tequila or mezcal based. So there's a saying, if it grows together, it goes together, which is, incorporate drinks that come from the same place as the food. Yeah. So if you're drinking, if you're doing chocolate mole, that's a Mexican sauce, obviously.
Sure.
Pair it with Mexican spirits. There's a reason for that. In countries where they've been enjoying a certain cuisine, a certain style of food, and a certain drink for thousands of years, they enjoy those things together, and there's a reason for it. It's because they work well together. So pairing chocolate mole with mezcal with tequila makes a lot of sense. It also works really, really well with bittersweet orange liqueurs. So like any kind of like Campari replacement, any like Aperol, those work really well. If you want to look up a Boulevardier or like a mezcal Negroni, that is an amazing addition to those drinks. Those drinks.
A mezcal Negroni.
Yeah, so just a standard Negroni. So vermouth, vermouth, Campari, or an alternative, and mezcal instead of the gin, and then those chocolate mole bitters is super, super good. And again, probably the easier way to use them would be in non-alcoholic red wine. So if you want to give red wine a little bit of a kick, adding that chocolate flavor to red wine is incredible, because that's a flavor you're kind of looking for anyway. And a lot of alcohol-free red wines are lacking a richness and a depth to them. You don't want them to be sweet, but you want a richness, like a chocolatey flavor kind of makes sense. So these bitters they're chocolatey, they're smoky, they're spicy, a little bit spicy. They're spiced, they're earthy, they're bitter. These are all flavors that incorporate into red wine really, really well. So if you want to add a ton of flavor and richness, but also a little bit of kick, a little bit of punch, they'll work really, really well in red wine.
Okay, I'm going to try that.
Coffee in the morning is another great addition. The lavender bitters actually in coffee work really well too.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, first question is answered. There we go. Okay, Ian, you want to make some drinks? Well, first, First, you're gonna let me just skip ahead. Bar basic tools. Do you want to talk about those, or you want to talk about it as we go? I know you were going to talk about like the essentials that we should have, and then like maybe some things that are good to have but don't necessarily have to have.
Yeah, we can go over it real quick. So the reason why I wanted to do these drinks, first of all, and this will kind of lay the foundation, I think, for what we're doing, is we're going to make 3 sours, 3 different styles of sours. And I chose this because a sour is a type of drink that works really well in non-alcoholic form. So spirit-forward cocktails, like an old fashioned, a Manhattan, you can make them non-alcoholic, but they don't satisfy in the same way that a sour does. Because to be fair, you're really just putting 2 non-alcoholic spirits together. Non-alcoholic spirits are not really meant to be drunk on their own. I'm sure we'll get there one day, but for now, drinking any of these straight isn't as satisfying as making a proper cocktail. So spirit-forward cocktails are a little more challenging, but once you add an element like citrus or a syrup or something like that, it really elevates the drink and it really gives you a complete experience. Sours are a nice place to start too, because it's a very basic format. It's a very simple recipe, if you will, that you can kind of endlessly tweak. And we're going to talk about 3 different cocktails and how you could make them differently, how you could reinterpret them for yourself. But at its core, we're using a spirit, some citrus, and a sweetener of some kind. And from there, you can kind of take whatever ingredients you have on hand, and as long as you understand the basic kind of ratios, the basic formula and idea of this cocktail, you can make anything that you have at home, any kind of citrus, any spirit, any sweetener that you have, you can assemble them and make a really satisfying drink. So this is a great place to start. If you haven't made a proper cocktail yet, and I say proper cocktail, that's not exactly fair. A gin and tonic is a great drink, and a gin and tonic is an easy drink. A whiskey and Coke is an easy drink to make. And those will work. You know, let's say a spiritless, a Kentucky 74 and Coke will work. A Monday gin and tonic will work, but it doesn't deliver the same level of flavor that a cocktail with 3, 4, 5 ingredients does. Non-alcoholic spirits are kind of like a veggie burger. Like that burger itself tastes fine, right? But once you dress it up on a bun with lettuce, tomato, ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, cheese, whatever, it's now a complete experience, and you really enjoy the entire experience of eating that burger. Making a cocktail is kind of the same thing. The spirit lends an amazing flavor and it adds volume to the drink. It adds what we were missing before when mocktails were just pineapple juice and syrup and soda water. That's not really satisfying anymore. Like, that's all we had, 5 years ago, but we've evolved now. We have these ingredients now, and these add volume to your drink. They add flavor, they add spice, they add kick. But to really enjoy them to their fullest, making a proper shaken or stirred cocktail is really going to kind of get you all the way there. So that's why we're starting with this. And I think this is kind of a really great basic place to start from if you've never made a cocktail with 3, 4, 5 ingredients. You'll need a couple things if you don't already have them. You don't need very many bar tools, but I really recommend getting them because it's going to make your job much easier. Mm-hmm. If you've been intimidated by making cocktails because you don't know where to start, you don't know what tools you need, you don't need that much, but a few basic tools will really get you there. And it's going to make your job way, way easier and make reading recipes and following recipes way easier. So a couple things, a shaker. There's a couple different kinds. You can use the shaker like Deb has, which already has the built-in strainer on top. That's a really easy place to start. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm a fan of the easy. Yes.
This is a 2-piece shaker, and I'll show you how to use this if you're curious or you want to try something new. This is a 2-piece shaker. It's called a Boston shaker. And it's either a metal tin and a glass or 2 metal tins. I like the 2 metal tins better. So that's what I would look for personally. The next thing that you absolutely need is a jigger. And there's a number of different styles of jiggers. And this is, I think, the easiest to use. This is an OXO measuring cup. And it's impossible to spill. It's really easy to use. And for me, most importantly, it has a 1/4 ounce marking on it. Not all jiggers have a 1/4 ounce marking. You don't see a 1/4 ounce in recipes all the time, but when you do, it obviously makes it easier if you have an actual 1/4 ounce marking. Not all jiggers have that. So this is why I like the OXO jigger a lot.
And I will say too, the numbers are very easy to read for those of us who are past 50. The numbers are very easy to read on this. So you don't need to get out your reading glasses.
If you're comfortable in the kitchen, this is something that's going to be really comfortable and really familiar. It costs $10 on Amazon. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend grabbing it. You're not going to see them use this at a bar very often, but honestly, this is what I use 100% of the time at home.
I agree.
It's the easiest and simplest jigger to use.
It's the OXO, right? OXO jigger.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. OXO jigger. Yep, it's available on Amazon. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Ian.
No, that's okay. The others that you're going to see, which are both totally valid, but they're a little harder to use. This is a Japanese jigger. So this end has a 1 ounce up to the very top. This is a little harder to use because to fill, so like this end, for instance, is 1 ounce. But to get a full ounce, you need to go to the very, very top. Like you need to actually form like a meniscus on the top of this jigger. So it's easier to spill. If you don't fill it up all the way, you're not getting a full ounce. So you'll see there's markings on the inside like everything else. The 3/4 marking is almost at the top. So if you're only filling it to just below the rim, you're not getting a full ounce in there. So this is a little harder to use. Mm-hmm. If you get good, if you want to do something a little faster, This is a great jigger to use, but it's a little more difficult. This is a similar idea. It's called a bell jigger. It's just a different shape. If it's more comfortable for your hands and it looks kind of cool, that's something that you can use as well. But again, I definitely recommend the OXO jigger, the measuring cup jigger. That's the easiest to use.
Yeah, and it comes in like a stainless steel, and then also you can get one almost like a clear. I think they have one that's like a clear version. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plasticky. Okay.
The other, I know you already touched on this, the citrus squeezer is huge. You can squeeze citrus by hand, obviously, but this makes it so much easier. I cannot stress the importance of using fresh citrus enough. So this is true of making alcoholic cocktails. It's true of making everything. The ingredients that you use are really important, and that doesn't just include the spirit. It includes everything you use, the syrups, the citrus, the ice. Everything you put into that cocktail is an ingredient that's going into your drink and it's going into your mouth. Use high quality stuff, use better ingredients. It's even more true for non-alcoholic cocktails because we're already fighting an uphill battle of not using foolproof 40% alcohol gin. So the other ingredients that you're putting in there are even more important. So I'm gonna preface this or maybe qualify it with at the end of the day, your taste is yours, and probably what matters more than anything is that it's easy to do. If it's not easy, you're not going to do it. I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to make a cocktail, but I'm lazy, and if I don't have fresh citrus at home, I'm not going to make a cocktail. And maybe I don't want to squeeze it, so I'm not going to make a cocktail. If that's going to hold you back from making drinks, then get a bottle of lemon juice, get a bottle of lime juice.
Yeah.
Go get a bottle of concentrate, go get a pasteurized bottle of lime juice. It's not the end of the world. You're still going to make a cocktail that you're going to enjoy. But making it with fresh citrus is absolutely going to change the drink for the better times 10. So don't stop yourself from making a drink. But especially if you're making something for somebody else, or you really want to play around and see kind of the limit that non-alcoholic cocktails can go to, make sure you're using fresh citrus. And this, of course, comes in handy.
And you can take out all your aggression. If you have a frustrating day, use this. Yes. But I will say, yeah, because when I first started making non-alcoholic drinks, I was using, and I still, when I'm like feeling lazy, really lazy, I have Nelly and Joe's lime juice, I use it. But I will say, since I started squeezing the limes, it's a lot better. I completely agree with you. It's a ton better, a lot better, significantly different.
Lie. I use bottled juice all the time because again, I'm lazy. But
yeah, it's like, if it can help you. But I'm also
here. I'm here to share what the best way is to make a cocktail, and it's with fresh citrus. That's just
I agree. I totally agree. And I wouldn't have said that in the beginning, but I didn't know. I just was like, this is how I'm making them, and I liked it. But yeah, it's definitely better.
I will admit it fully. Absolutely. The next thing you're going to want, and this can come from a bar or store, but you can also just use a regular kitchen sieve at home. This is a mesh strainer, and we're going to use this for the Southside cocktail. You don't need to use this for everything, but cocktails that have muddled herbs like mint or basil or rosemary, you're absolutely going to want to use this. Otherwise, you're going to get bits of herb in your drink that's going to get caught in your teeth. You're also going to want to use this if you ever make a drink with an egg white or aquafaba, because you're trying to make sure that you filter out any whole pieces of egg white that haven't emulsified fully. There's nothing less pleasant than drinking an egg white cocktail and you've had a little bit of
it's like an omelet cocktail.
Yeah,
yummy. An uncooked omelet.
This ensures that doesn't get through, and we'll show you how to use that in a minute.
Okay.
The last thing that's absolutely essential is a strainer. So if you're using the style of shaker that Deb has, it's not necessary. Your strainer's already built in. But if you're using a shaker tin, you're going to need something to strain it with. This is called a Hawthorne strainer. It's the one with the springs, on it. The spring comes off, as you just saw. I'll explain this a little more in a bit, but the spring helps you to close I don't know if you can see this. The spring helps you to close this when you're pouring. So if it's not closed, when you're pouring your drink out, ice shards are going to come out of it, bits of herbs are going to come out of it. You don't really want ice shards in your drink because it's going to continue to dilute your drink and you're going to have a watered down drink. So when you're pouring, you want to make sure, this is called closing the gate. You take your finger and you press it against the side, which prevents anything from coming out of it. So this is a Hawthorne strainer. This is probably the easiest to use, and it's what you're going to use with a regular shaker tin. The other style is called a julep strainer, like this guy. It gets used much less frequently, and it's usually if you're using a mixing glass. If you're making a stirred drink, we're not doing that today, but if you're making a stirred drink, this is what you're going to use and kind of hold it here, and it really just holds the ice and prevents the ice from falling out of your drink. The other things that you'll want to have are this mixing tin. So if you're making a stirred, the mixing glass rather, if you're making a stirred drink, like an old fashioned, a Manhattan, a Negroni, anything that's spirit forward that you don't want to shake a lot. You don't want to dilute it very much. You want to leave it as undiluted as possible. You're going to use a mixing glass and a spoon and stir it up to chill it down, and then use that julep strainer or a hawthorn strainer, whatever you want. But you're going to use that to then get the drink out of the mixing glass. But that's really about it. Like those are the essentials. And again, you really only need the few most basic of them. A muddler is nice. We're actually not going to use this. You might be surprised to find out that we're not going to use this for the Southside, which uses mint. We're not going to muddle it. But for certain drinks, like if you were using rosemary in a drink, you might want to muddle it. If you have like strawberry or like blackberries, raspberries, like any fruit, you might want to muddle it. We're actually not going to do that. I would say if you're looking to kind of cut down the number of tools that you need, you could actually skip a muddler.
Yeah, and you could just use the end of a wooden spoon. You don't have to have anything
Correct.
fancy. You can use
anything.
Yeah. You've got something in your kitchen you could use. Yep.
Totally, and any of these can be replaced. Like if you can use tablespoons, you can use other measuring devices and figure out the conversions. But again, if you're looking at recipes online, and after this, I hope that you'll be more comfortable looking up recipes, even just alcoholic recipes, and converting them to non-alcoholic form. They're all written in half ounce, quarter ounce, 3/4 of an ounce, which is a little more difficult to figure out if you're like trying to do a conversion from like tablespoons and teaspoons to ounces. It makes this $10 investment. It makes making drinks so much easier. The shaker tin makes it so much easier. You can use a mason jar with a lid. You can, like, if you're in a pinch, put a lid on a mason jar and shake it up, and use the lid of the mason jar to strain it, right? So keep the ice out. Yeah, protein shaker or something like that. Yeah, you can use what you have in your kitchen. Yep. But again, it's like a $20
This is going to make it easier. This will make it easier.
Go on Amazon and search for like basic cocktail kit, basic bar tools. It'll be like $20 for like a 4-piece set. It's like a jigger, a strainer. The basic tools that you need don't cost much and will make your job much easier. Yeah, definitely. Okay, you ready to make a drink? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so we're gonna. Huh? No, go ahead. Yep. Oh, sorry. So we're gonna start with the Southside, which is a gin cocktail. Okay, so we're going to use Monday Gin, which is one of my absolute favorites. There are a number of great gins, and there's a number of unique spirits. Seedlip is the most widely known, but like Seedlip, Pentire, Optimist, Wilderton, there's a number of spirits, a number of brands that make gin-like spirits. And you could absolutely use one of those here in place of Monday. But if you're looking for a straight up gin, I think Monday is probably my favorite. So we're going to do 2.5 ounces of gin. So measure out 2 and then go back and add another 1/2 ounce. One of the things that you might notice if you're looking at these recipes versus the recipes that you'll find online is I've increased the amount of spirit that you would use. So the recipe for this in alcoholic form would call for 2 ounces of gin. It would call for a similar amount of lime and simple syrup, but I've increased the spirit to 2.5 ounces because, again, we're fighting with the fact that these are not 40% alcohol. They have great flavor, but they're not as strong as alcoholic spirits. So we want to add a little more to really give them a leg up on being present in the cocktail and not being lost in the flavors of the citrus and the simple syrup. So 2.5 ounces of that gin. We're going to do 3/4 of an ounce of lime. So we're going to use our squeezer here. We're going to measure right into the mixing tin. I pre-measured. I even put in my simple syrup already with it, Ian. There you go. And I use Swoon. For me, I use Swoon brand simple syrup only because it's made with monk fruit. So that way it's, not so much of the sugar, but any brand works, or make your own simple syrup. You can make your own. Yeah, and like you can use sugar-free simple syrups. You can make your own. I made my own. If you haven't made simple syrup before, it's really simple and it saves you money. You can buy just a plain bottle of regular simple syrup at the store for $3-4.
Yeah, yeah.
But simple syrup is literally just equal parts sugar and water. You don't even need to use a stove or a pot. You can do it in the microwave if you want. I use a tea kettle. So this is just, it's a cup of sugar and a cup of hot water, shaken or stirred until the sugar dissolves. Really what you're doing is sugar doesn't dissolve well when you're making it. Like if you just add sugar to your cocktail,
yeah, it's just going to
it
be
doesn't,
gritty. Yeah, it's going
it
to be
doesn't
gritty.
dissolve well.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So adding water to it makes it work in a drink. So you're just combining equal parts sugar and water. That's it.
Perfect.
So 3/4 ounce of our lime juice right in there. This is the simple syrup that I made this afternoon. It took about 5 minutes to make.
Oh, I love that.
I know.
In the middle of mailing out 150 boxes of bitters today and dumping 5 gallons of bitters all over.
The 5 gallons of bitters on the floor came later.
I'm very impressed.
That was right. The 5 gallons of bitters on the floor was right before this, which was perfect timing. Carly came to the rescue. She helped out. We're going to do 1/2 ounce of simple syrup in the mixing tin. If you took this and added ice and shook it up, that would be a gimlet, essentially. A gimlet is usually made with lime cordial and gin, but you can also make it with fresh lime juice, simple syrup, and gin. You're going to find that, again, this format, you can take these basic drinks and then turn them into like 20 different drinks by substituting one ingredient for another, one small tweak for another. And what I really hope to impress is that you can take this idea and do whatever you want with it. Take what we just did. Take gin, lime juice, and simple syrup and throw in a handful of blackberries. Call it whatever you want. Call it a blackberry gimlet, call it who knows. But you can add whatever flavor you want, whatever syrup you want, whatever fruit you want, whatever herb you want. But take that basic format of spirit, sour, and syrup, put your own spin on it, and make a tasty drink. But what's important is kind of keeping these ratios somewhere in line. Most cocktails are going to call for somewhere between 3 and 4 ounces of total liquid, which again, you can tweak if you want to, but they're written that way because glasses are a certain size. This glass holds a certain amount of liquid. It holds about 4 ounces of liquid. So if you want to fill your glass up to the right level and have it be enjoyable and presentable and look nice, you kind of want to keep your cocktails in that range of 3 to 4, 4.5 ounces of total liquid. If you're making a drink in a highball glass, of course, that's going to change. You're adding, soda water or ginger beer, it's going to be more. But somewhere in that ratio of 2 to 2.5 ounces of spirit, 1/2 ounce to 3/4 of an ounce of citrus, and 1/2 ounce to 3/4 of an ounce of syrup is going to create a nicely balanced cocktail. You can play with that as much as you want. If you like your drink sweeter, use more syrup. If you like your drink more tart, use more citrus or less citrus. Play with it however you want, but keep it somewhere in that ratio of 2 to 2.5 ounces of spirit, 3/4 ounce of lime, 1/2 ounce of syrup, and you're going to end up with a nicely balanced drink.
Love it. Love it.
So we're going to take our mint. We're going to add however much you want. I don't know, 6, 8 pieces of mint or so. Toss it in there. It smells so good.
It does smell so good. Yeah. It smells like, so good.
Delicious.
Okay.
We're going to add a handful of ice.
Okay.
And then we're going to shake it for about 6 seconds. And I hate being exact like that. Carly always gets on me when I tell people exactly how long to shake or stir something. She's like, just let people do it. It's important for a reason. Alcoholic cocktails, you shake for between 8 and 12 seconds because dilution in alcoholic cocktails is actually important. It's actually something that you want. If you made an alcoholic drink without any ice and without shaking it, and then made it again, shaking it with ice, the version without any dilution is going to be really hard to drink. Adding water to that alcoholic cocktail is actually important. It's part of balancing that cocktail. Non-alcoholic drinks don't really need that. We don't need to dilute these drinks because they're literally water. Some of these products are water-based. We don't really need a lot of dilution. So you want to shake it, you need to chill it down, but you don't need to shake it nearly as long. So we're going to shake this for about 6 seconds. That's what I found is the right ratio between getting it cold and not overly diluting it.
I like it really cold. Okay. I think I was 6.5.
Close enough, somewhere in that range. But again, you don't need to like stand there and shake it for 20 seconds. Like when you go to a bar and you see a bartender doing that, that's because they're trying to add water to the drink. We don't necessarily need to add water to the drink. I'm also standing here talking and my drink is getting watered down. When you're making it at home, you want this part of the process, that smells so good. You want this part of the process to be a little quicker. You don't want to stand here talking for 2 minutes like I am. Because again, the ice is sitting in here and you're watering your drink down.
Okay.
So if you're using this kind of shaker, you put this right over the top. You're going to close the gate, like I mentioned before, which is going to keep any ice from falling out. And here we're going to use this strainer because we don't want any of those mint pieces in here. So we hold the strainer right above the glass. We pour it out. We don't have any mint. It comes right up to the top of the glass, which is really nice. It looks nice. Getting your drink up to the top of the glass means that when you go to take a sip, you're going to get those aromatics right in your nose. You want it kind of right at that level. And then if you want to grab another piece of mint, grab something, you know, kind of nice looking. We're going to use that to garnish this drink. With mint, you kind of take it, it's a little funny. Bartenders like to make a joke about this, but you can slap it in your hand, kind of slap it on the back of your hand. That releases some of the oils in the drink, which again, when you put it in there and then lift it to your face, it's going to release those aromatics of that mint a little faster and create a really wonderful experience. That was a little high. There we go. Drop that in there, and there you go. And that's the Southside.
Okay, big time cheers, Ian. To you and to everybody being here tonight. Julie made it. I see her drinking one. That's delicious. Very nice. Very, very nice.
It's
okay,
refreshing.
If somebody wanted it colder, would you just say to add more ice since you don't want to shake it too long? Like I love my drinks really cold.
To get it colder, yeah. I mean, you could shake it a little longer, which would dilute it a little bit. The more ice that's in there is gonna chill it down faster, and the harder you shake it is gonna chill it down faster.
Okay.
So shake it really, really hard to get kind of that right balance of a nicely chilled drink without too much dilution.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That is delicious. So without the mint, it's a gimlet.
Without the mint, it's a gimlet. You know, this recipe, the Southside, is from the 1930s, I think. And recipes called for lemon juice, some called for lime juice, some called for lemon and lime juice. This is one of those that, like I said, you can kind of play around, like use whatever you want. Gin works nicely with lemon. It works nicely with lime. It works with both. You know, kind of play around and experiment with it a little bit. Take that same idea. If we made that same drink with a white rum instead of gin, poured it into a highball glass and topped it with soda water, it'd be a mojito.
Right. Yeah.
So like this basic format of a sour obviously makes a wonderful cocktail, makes a sour on its own, but it's again the base for hundreds of other cocktails. That same basic idea of those proportions of spirit, citrus, and sugar can make you an endless variety of cocktails depending on what you're looking for. You know, if you want it to be a little more refreshing, you want it to last longer, you could make that same drink and top it off with soda water. The exact same drink that we made, pour a splash of soda water on top and enjoy it that way. Enjoy the drink however you want to, but when you have the right combination of base ingredients, you can kind of take that knowledge and use it to tweak however you see fit. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. So many options. Somebody's saying, okay, sorry, I know Haley is taking notes of like questions and stuff. Somebody's saying you could maybe add a big whiskey cube to keep it cold. Obviously, I wouldn't have it in a coupe glass, right? If I did that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you would put it in a rock glass and use one big cube. Of
what
ice.
about Mary's saying, would you use like a mint simple syrup, or would that be like a mint overload? I don't think so. I think that'd be delicious.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And you
I like that.
And so again, fresh ingredients are always best. So that fresh mint really lends a wonderful aromatic quality and freshness to the drink. But if you have a mint simple syrup, you can use that instead. You can use that plus mint. There are no rules at the end of the day. Do whatever you want. Do whatever is going to taste good.
Yeah.
But kind of once you have that basic idea of, you know, this is the core of how to make a well-balanced drink. And again, these drinks, these 3 drinks that we're going to make right now are the foundation for a well-balanced sour.
Yep.
Once you take this, you can kind of do whatever you want with it and run with it.
Real quick, Ian, somebody, because we were putting a link in here for like if anybody wants to purchase, like the Monday gin we're using tonight, or the Ritual, or the Kentucky 74. If you go to Boisson, Boisson, it's like an online mega store. They sell all the bitters too. You can buy all the bitter directly from Ian. So you can buy all the bitter directly from Ian, use code Mocktail Mom, I'll save you 15%. But if you want to shop for the other things we're talking about tonight, like the spirits and stuff, Boisson, Boisson is the online store, and code Mocktail Mom will save you 15%. That's our discount code. So anyway, if anybody's trying to shop, because it looked like that link maybe that we had, Haley, isn't working or whatever. Sorry, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not techie. I don't know.
Boisson is amazing.
Boisson's awesome
for everything.
Yeah. So they have, if you're grabbing Monday gin and you want to grab bitters, you can do that at the same time, or you can just buy the bitters directly from Ian and Carly, and the code will give you 15% off as well from them. Okay. All right, Ian, we are going to move on to our whiskey sour, I think.
Okay. All right. I'm excited about this one. I have not made this drink in a long time, and
really?
It's one of my absolute favorites, and it's one that I would absolutely recommend anybody to start with for their first drink, for their first alcohol-free drink. If you have somebody that's kind of new to this and they're on the fence, they're not quite sure, this is absolutely a place that I would start them with.
Okay.
So we're going to use the spiritless Kentucky 74 whiskey. This is one of my favorite whiskeys. It is actually distilled. So unlike Monday and Ritual, which are wonderful, these are built from the ground up. These don't start as any alcoholic products at all. There are a number of different distillates and flavorings that are combined. This starts as alcoholic bourbon and then has the alcohol removed. And when you smell it, you get a huge hit of oak to it, which really comes through in cocktails. And what I love about it so much, and it works so well in mixed drinks, is that you still get that oak aroma. And you smell it and you're like, oh yeah, that's clearly whiskey. Like that smells like whiskey. Like, yeah, it's not the same, sure. And if you drink it straight, probably not going to be amazing. But when you get that hit of oak and caramel and butterscotch, you're like, oh yeah, this is bourbon. This is the bourbon drink.
I will say though, their their spiced 74 I've had by itself, and it's delicious. It's so good. I will say that you could, in my opinion, you could drink neat, or even, that one I would say you could drink neat. This one I would not. I don't think it would taste good.
One of the best products on the market, I think. And I wish it wasn't seasonal, and it's obviously the seasonality of it makes sense. It's a winter, kind of spirit.
Is it back though? I thought it was back. Maybe it's not.
I hope so. I hope it's available.
Because it's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, the Kentucky Spiced 74. But we're using the regular one tonight, which is delicious in this whiskey sour. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay, so
you're gonna notice that this is basically the exact same format as the last cocktail. Which was done on purpose. We're just switching out the ingredients. We're switching out the spirit, the citrus, and the sweetener to make a totally different drink, but from the exact same format. So once you have this basic format, you can make whatever you want. Open up your fridge, pull out a citrus, pull out a spirit, pull out a sweetener, throw them together. You obviously want to pick things that make sense together. So gin works with lemon and lime. Whiskey makes more sense with lemon. Generally, there are drinks that are whiskey based that have lime, but it generally makes more sense with lemon. Tequila makes more sense with lime. Like there are certain things that just kind of make sense together. So keep those in mind when you're building your own drink. But you can, of course, always look to these classics for inspiration. And if you're like, oh, I forget, what is supposed to go with what, just Google a whiskey sour, Google a gimlet, Google a margarita, whatever, and look up the first recipe that you're going to find on like liquor.com or Punch or Imbibe, and take that basic recipe, maybe increase the amount of spirit a little bit, but kind of make it the same way. Whatever that recipe, whatever that website is suggesting for the alcoholic cocktail, make it the same way, but just increase the spirit a little bit. Same idea to backtrack a little bit. If you are making like a gin and tonic or like a whiskey Coke, same idea. You're going to want to use more spirit than you would normally use. So like an alcoholic gin and tonic might be 2 ounces of gin and 4 ounces of tonic. You might want to use more like, 3 ounces of gin to 3 ounces of tonic. Like you might want to be closer to like a 1 to 1.
Yeah. Again, almost half and half.
Adjust it to your personal preference. If you're using more spirit and less mixer, it's going to be slightly less carbonated than the drink would be before, but you're going to get that gin flavor stronger than you would if you were making it the same way that you'd make an alcoholic drink. A lot of things about making NA drinks are the same, but some things need to be tweaked just slightly to give you a better experience.
Love it.
Whiskey sour, ready?
Whiskey sour, I'm ready. Who's ready?
So
Who's making it?
Same thing. We're going to go 2.5 ounces here of Kentucky 74.
Okay. Smells so good.
It smells. I can smell it from here.
It does. It smells so good.
It makes me so happy. And again, if you think that these things are going to be triggering, if you feel like
that's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yes.
Something funky that smells like bourbon is going to be triggering for you, don't do it.
I agree. Yeah.
But I can't tell you how many times these things have prevented me from drinking.
Same.
So if it doesn't immediately seem like, oh, this is going to make me want to run out and drink a bottle of whiskey, give it a shot. It can't hurt.
Yeah.
If you take a sip and you go, this is too close, I feel uncomfortable, dump it down the drain. You're going to be fine. You haven't realized, you haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
We're all adults. We can make decisions for ourselves. But it drives me a little crazy when people will tell somebody that's new to recovery or in recovery, like, stay away from these, you're going to relapse. Like, this is a tool that you can use. This absolutely helps keep me sober. It helps keep millions of people sober.
I agree.
So
I agree.
Think about it for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, is this going to make me relapse? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Give it a shot. It can't hurt at the end of the day.
No, I agree, Ian. It's having non-alcoholic options and having, alcohol-free wines and things like that has helped me to surf the urge in those times when I do want to pour a glass of wine. It's like, okay, what can I have in place of that helps me get through that 15 minutes or so of wanting to pour a glass of wine or a bottle.
I'm not gonna lie. I have run out to the beer fridge. Like I have been, in a state where you're upset, like something bad happened, and I'm like, I need a beer. I've run out to the beer fridge, cracked a beer, and chugged a beer like in 5 seconds, and was good. After.
And you're good. A non-alcoholic beer. You're saying, you're like,
beer,
you're like, okay. It just helps you. Like, okay, that's done, and now I can move on.
And then a minute later, I'm good. I'm like, that's normal, better. And I'm like, thank God for non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah, I agree.
So anyway,
okay, sorry.
Know yourself. Know your triggers. Take a mental inventory for yourself. Be honest with yourself. But if this seems like something that could help you or enhance your life, I say give it a shot.
That's very good advice. Very good advice. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna squeeze a lemon. We're doing 3/4 of an ounce again of fresh lemon juice.
Perfect. Okay, I put mine in.
Okay, 3/4 ounce of lemon. We've got our whiskey in there. We're going to use.
This is so fun, Ian. I hope everybody's having fun. I'm having such a great time. I hope everybody's having a good time. Okay, what were you saying?
This is not traditional. A whiskey sour would be made with simple syrup. You would use a regular sugar syrup to make a whiskey sour. We're going to use maple syrup because it gives it a little more richness, a little bit of texture. And again, because we're using a non-alcoholic spirit, we're missing a lot of that texture. And maple syrup has a richness to it and a texture to it, and just an enhanced flavor that you're obviously not getting if you're using a plain simple syrup. So I like to use a little maple syrup in my whiskey sour. I like to use this in an old fashioned as well, because again, you're getting some additional texture and some additional flavor. An old fashioned is just booze, sugar, bitters, and sweetener, right? So an old fashioned made the traditional way, to be honest, I find fairly unsatisfying in non-alcoholic form. But using maple syrup in place of that sugar cube lends some texture and some richness to the drink. So maple syrup is going to go in there. We're going to do, and again, this is optional. You do not have to do this, but a whiskey sour and a number of sours are often made with either egg white or aquafaba. Aquafaba is the juice from a can of chickpeas. This is a vegan alternative to egg whites. If you don't like the idea of putting egg whites in your cocktail, aquafaba works. Next time you're opening a can of chickpeas, save some of that juice, put it in your fridge, save it for the next time you're making a cocktail. We're going to do a half an ounce of aquafaba.
Can you just do a whole or one whole egg white, right? You don't have to measure it out to be like half an ounce of egg white.
You'll sometimes see recipes written with a half an ounce of egg white or an ounce of egg white. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if you're using more, you're obviously going to add more of that.
More texture. Foam. Okay, I'm just going to put my whole egg white. Okay, I'm putting it all in.
You can use a whole egg white, absolutely.
Okay.
there are two different ways to do this. You'll see recipes written that will call for you to dry shake, which means you're going to take the ingredients that are in your glass with no ice and shake them vigorously for like 20 or 30 seconds. And what you're doing is emulsifying that egg white. You're creating foam in the shaker. What we're going to do instead is a reverse dry shake, because I think it's a little easier and it gets you a better foam. It's different. People have different opinions on this. But I like a reverse dry shake. So what we're going to do is put our ice in here.
Okay. I feel like it's like reverse osmosis.
Exactly.
Reverse dry shake.
You kind of want your ice to go like 3/4 of the way up the mixing tin. Like you want your mixing tin full of ice.
Okay.
But you also need to be able to still shake your drink. If you add too much ice, you're not going to be able to shake it. Your tin isn't going to close. You're going to make a mess. So fill it up basically like as high as it goes, where like when you put this one in here, there's a point where it stops, right? Like your ice can go pretty much up to there. So like 3/4 of the way full.
Okay.
So we're going to shake it. And this is, at this point, this is just to chill it. So we're going to shake it about 6 seconds.
Okay.
So our drink is now properly chilled. We're going to take our strainer and we're going to strain it into 1/2 of this tin.
Now I'm just using.
Oh, that's going to be a little harder. Yeah, if you're using the.
Well, that's okay. I could just take the whole top off, right? I can take the whole top off.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What you need to do is get the ice out.
Okay.
So what we're doing here is just removing the ice, but we're keeping all the liquid in here.
This is hilarious.
We're going to shake it again. So now it's chilled, but we're going to shake it again to create foam, and we're going to shake it longer this time.
Okay, hang on, please hold. Okay, no ice is in there. Okay. I use that, was it Hawthorne strainer you said?
Hawthorne strainer, yeah, that's the one with the
little springs on it, right?
With the spring, yep.
Okay, and now we're going to shake it again with no ice.
Yeah, shake it as hard as you can, probably 20 seconds or so.
Okay.
What you're doing is emulsifying that egg white or that aquafaba and creating foam. You'll kind of hear it change texture. Like if you were making like a meringue, right? It's kind of the same idea. Like you're going to hear it. You're going to start to hear the liquid left once it's emulsified to the right point.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, so once we have that, we're actually going to use this strainer again.
Okay.
Because I don't want to get any little bit of egg white or any little bit of like, I don't want pixies in my drink necessarily, right?
And do you have ice in your glass already, Ian?
I did. I'm sorry, I skipped that. So I put 1 large ice cube in my glass.
Okay. Okay.
And this is a drink that you'll see served different ways. You'll see a whiskey sour served in a coupe glass. Neither one is right or wrong. You'll see it served in a coupe glass, or you'll see it served in a rock glass with 1 single ice cube. Again, can you use little ice cubes from the freezer? Absolutely. But a larger ice cube has more surface area and it melts slower, which is going to give you a more enjoyable experience overall.
Oh,
what I'm doing right now is I'm tapping the side of the strainer to get all the foam out. There's still a decent amount of foam in here. And as you kind of tap the side of the glass, it starts to come out a little bit.
And are you putting the foam? Are you putting the foam through the strainer or no?
Yeah. Yeah.
All of it. Oh,
yeah,
mine's
so
not.
If you try tapping the side of the strainer with your shaker tin.
Yeah.
And it'll get it to come out a little bit. It's going to come out pretty slowly.
Yeah, that's slow. This is not for the impatient.
No, this takes a little longer. You can skip that. If you feel pretty confident that there's nothing icky floating in your drink, you can go ahead and just dump the whole thing in there.
Okay. I love eggs.
Bars, and if you want to make sure that nothing is getting into your drink, that's why you would use that strainer.
Okay.
So what you end up with is a cocktail that has a really nice kind of layer of foam.
Yes.
On the top there, which is just visually very appealing.
Beautiful.
And adds a layer of texture to the drink. So again, adding egg whites or aquafaba to a non-alcoholic cocktail is nice in that it's bringing some of that texture back that's lacking because we're not using alcoholic spirit.
And we could put a couple of drops of some bitters on here, or like I have these Luxardo cherries,
there's a couple options for this. So a whiskey sour is garnished a few different ways.
Okay.
One would be cherries, which I'm going to use because I love Luxardo cherries. They make me really happy.
So good.
The other, I'm going to lick my fingers because that's tasty. The other that you will see done fairly often is a few drops of bitters right on top. And part of the reason why bitters are used in egg white cocktails is because egg white or aquafaba can sometimes smell a little funny, but adding bitters to it kind of neutralizes that smell.
Which bitters?
I would use just like an aromatic bitter.
Aromatic, yep.
So our aromatic bitters are like Angostura would be the traditional alcoholic option. Putting a few dashes of bitters right there on top of that foam helps to reduce that funny smell from egg white or aquafaba because they're highly aromatic, and that's now the first thing that you smell when you raise the glass to your nose.
It smells so delicious, Ian. Big time cheers. That's
cherry syrup will do kind of the same thing. So I've got like that cherry syrup is dripping down into the drink, and so I'm adding that aroma on top of the foam.
That is so delicious.
Oh yeah.
Okay, somebody's saying I was a little hesitant because I'd use something instead of Kentucky 74, but it's actually so good. Oh, I'll have to try it with the Kentucky 74 next time. Yes, see how you like it with this.
And this is one that will work, and especially I love the maple syrup in this because it does add so much flavor. Any whiskey that you choose, whether it's Ritual or Free Spirits or Liars, any whiskey will really work well in this drink because you're adding so much more to it, to be honest.
That is so good. That is so good. Just drink a gallon of that. It's delicious.
That is absolutely killer.
Okay.
Oh
my gosh.
Last one. I know we're running up on time here. It's 6 o'clock. I talk too much as per usual. So if you want, we can just jump right into the margarita.
Yeah, we'll do the margarita. Everybody ready? We're gonna do a margarita real quick. We'll do our margarita. I see Kara's here. Kara, I already asked your question about the bitters, and I don't know if you were here for that. Okay, so we're gonna make our agave margarita.
I'm happy to answer a question while we do this. If there's a question.
Oh no, you did already. I see the gal that had sent me the email about the question on the lavender and the chocolate bitters. Okay, I'm ready.
All right, so we're gonna do a margarita, and this is another one that I love showing people because most people's experience with a virgin margarita is sourness. You go to the Mexican restaurant down the street, and they're basically giving you the store-bought sour mix. The pre-made syrup with lemon and lime juice shaken up with ice and put in a glass. There's nothing else in there. It's the absolute sweetest, most least satisfying drink that you can imagine. But you add in the alcohol-free tequila that gives it the actual flavor of tequila, the spice of tequila, the kick of tequila, and now it's an adult drink now. And it's so really easy to make. So 2.5 ounces of tequila. Again, we're starting the exact same way that we've made everything else. We're going to do 3/4 ounce of lime juice.
Okay.
And we're going to squeeze some limes. I probably should have done this beforehand.
Oh, you're fine.
And then for the syrup, we're going to use agave nectar. And there's a bunch of different ways to make a margarita. Traditional margarita recipes are going to call for some kind of orange liqueur. They might just call for a regular simple syrup. I'm doing this a little bit differently. I like a margarita with the orange liqueur for a couple of reasons. I think it waters the drink down, especially in the non-alcoholic form. And again, we're trying to preserve as much of that intensity as we can. And adding that orange liqueur just adds sweetness and just adds more liquid to your drink. So you're not getting as intense a cocktail as you might without it. So 3/4 ounce of fresh lime juice. And then on this one, on the last cocktails, we use 1/2 ounce of sugar. Because personally, I find that you don't need as much sugar in non-alcoholic cocktails because again, a spirit isn't as intense. So you're not really balancing 40% alcohol, you're balancing a less strong version of tequila. So for most of these drinks, I like a half an ounce of syrup. With this one, I'm actually going to use a full 3/4 of an ounce of syrup, and we're going to use agave nectar, which comes from the same plant as tequila. So again, kind of that idea, if it grows together, it goes together. These flavors just make sense together. Agave nectar complements the agave flavors in the tequila. And we're using 3/4 of an ounce because ritual tequila in particular is very spicy. And that's great because it gives you that kick. It reminds you that you're drinking a non-alcoholic cocktail. But I like a little bit more sweetener than I would normally use in a sour because it balances that spice in a nice way. Whereas if you're using a little bit less, that spice really comes through. It's great. If you like a spicy margarita, use less sweetener. But I think the balance personally for me of using a little bit more sweetener in this drink is kind of a nice way of balancing that spice with ritual tequila in particular. We are going to use our bitters in this drink, so we're going to use our orange bitters.
So good.
Kind of the idea of getting that orange flavor that you would find from an orange liqueur in a classic margarita recipe, but without watering it down, without adding any sweetness, still getting that orange flavor and the complexities of our cocktail bitters, and kind of finding a happy medium between using triple sec and not using triple sec.
Yeah.
Orange bitters are kind of a nice way to get that flavor in there without overly diluting or overly sweetening your drink. The last thing we're going to add is a little pinch of salt right into the shaker. Okay. You can make a salt tincture in the same way that you would make a simple syrup by mixing salt and water together. Adding salt to the cocktail brings out the citrus flavors. It adds some balance to it. It makes it pop, kind of in the same way that adding salt to your food makes your food taste better. Adding salt to cocktails can make your cocktails taste better. It doesn't work with everything, but it works with a lot of cocktails. And a margarita is a really classic example. That's why you put salt on the rim of a margarita.
I was going to say, yeah, you've got salt on the rim or like tahini seasoning on the rim, Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the exact same idea. The salt mixes with the citrus really nicely. It helps to tone down bitter elements. It helps to balance sweet and bitter. It helps to highlight and enhance fruit flavors and citrus flavors. So adding that salt really just makes the cocktail shine a little bit brighter. And if you don't like your rim salted, adding a little bit of salt to the drink does the same thing without making it salty.
Yeah.
This isn't going to make your drink taste salty at all. We're using so little salt, such a little pinch of salt. It's not going to make the drink taste salty. It's really just highlighting and enhancing the flavors that are already in
flavor of it.
Yep.
Okay,
so everything's in there.
Yep.
Give it a nice shake. This is one that I would say it's up to you. If you want to use fresh ice in your glass and strain it over fresh ice, you're welcome to. That's going to make the drink water down less. It's going to make the ice melt slower. You can also just take this and honestly pour it straight into the glass with the ice and everything. This is a drink that's so strong, and especially because ritual tequila is so strong and so intense that I don't mind it a little bit more diluted. So I often will just pour this straight into the glass without straining it over ice. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I think it's kind of a personal preference thing. But I actually don't mind this drink just with the ice from the mixing glass.
I don't think you can go wrong.
No.
Yeah.
Garnish it with a little lime. If you want to squeeze lime on top, go for it.
I've got my lime. Yep.
Drop a lime in there. And there you go.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers, Ian. Thank you. Shut up. 3 delicious drinks.
Perfect way to end it.
The monkey's
We drink it all day long.
That is so good. There is a reason the ritual tequila changed my life. I tried it and I was like, why would I go back? Like, why would I drink? Why would I go back when you can have good drinks like this?
It's so good. And the agave nectar in there
is perfect.
Absolutely helps to round that drink out.
Yep.
And again, give it a little bit more. So you taste the orange. The orange isn't overpowering, but those orange bitters do add a little bit of depth and complexity to the drink.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. I know we're like up on a little past our hour, but if anybody we'll go roll through questions. I know Haley has a bunch of them written down from earlier in the chat. Is it okay if I answer, or if I you have added to the question list the one about making it spicy? I add jalapenos straight in it, or I even add like some of the jalapeno brine. I mean, that's probably not what
you know, what you would do, Ian. I don't know. I literally will take a little, I know, I like that. Yeah, do whatever you want. I like the taste of it. Like it's just really kicks it up. Tiny bit. You don't have to add a lot. You don't have to add the whole jar, but just throw some jalapenos in there, shake it up. Yeah, muddle some jalapenos, and the tahini rim will make it definitely spicy. What other questions, Haley, did we have?
Karen wanted to know if there's anywhere to purchase all the bitter in Portland locally or just online.
Probably just.
I don't think so right now. We're still working on Portland, but I don't think there's anything local at the moment. There's a ton of places in Seattle, but nothing in Portland.
Okay. Allthebitter.com, code Mocktail Mom. Yep.
I think this question may have been answered, but I'll ask it again just in case. Kara wanted to know how lavender bitters would work in non-alcoholic white wines.
Oh.
Really, really well. It's obviously going to give it a floral flavor. So if the idea of adding, floral and lavender element to your white wine doesn't sound good, then obviously don't do it. But I love the lavender bitters in white wine. The floral notes in white wine are not unheard of. Like that's a flavor element that you might find in a white wine. So that totally makes sense. Orange bitters in white wine are also a really nice addition.
Definitely.
Okay, and then the last question is from Sam. Wanted to know if the mole bitters would pair well in red blends, and if so, how many drops would you use?
Good question.
Yeah, absolutely. In any red wine, I would say start with, and so first, that's a good question. With our bitters, try not to measure in drops. If you're using single drops from our dropper, you're not using nearly enough bitters. So a bottle of Angostura, or like any traditional, like a bottle of bitters that you dash from and you shake it, the amount of liquid that comes out in one dash is somewhere between 10 and 15 drops. That's one dash. So if you're only using 3 or 4 drops in a drink, that's like a quarter of a dash. Like that's an amount that doesn't even come out of a bottle of bitters.
So we want people to use what, like a whole dropper full almost?
A full dropper, yeah. It seems like a lot, and people often think that we're telling you to use more bitters than you would from like a traditional bitters. But the amount of bitters that come out in a dash from a regular bottle of Angostura is nearly a full milliliter of liquid, which is the amount that's in a dropper. So if you're making recipes and a recipe calls for 3 dashes, use 3 full droppers. So like squeeze, dispense, squeeze, dispense, squeeze, dispense.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Because when I first got them, I didn't know. I was literally doing I didn't know. I had never used bitters before. So I was doing 1 drop. Yeah. So it's a whole squeeze the bulb, fill up the dropper.
And I'll be honest, that's being a little bit generous, but only a little bit. And because it's not alcoholic and it's really just adding more flavor to your drink.
Yeah.
We decided to call it 1 milliliter as a dash because it's just adding more flavor to your drink. And using single drops is nearly. So for red wine, what I would start with is 1 full dropper and go up from there per glass of wine. Okay. So, a 5-ounce, 6-ounce glass of wine, start with 1 full dropper, give it a swirl, give it a taste, see what you think. For some wines, that's perfect. So for instance, late Pinot Noir, which I absolutely love and doesn't need anything. That's a great wine on its own. Naughty Syrah, another great wine, doesn't need anything on its own. But 1 full dropper of bitters really kicks it up a notch. And the complexity of the bitters really just kind of rounds it out and really just adds another dimension to it. So 1 full dropper for a wine like that, I think it's perfect. For a wine that's maybe a little bit sweeter or a little more boring, for something that's a little more like one-dimensional, you might want to go up to like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 full droppers. Like I've taken wines that were pretty flat and not very good, and actually ditched the dropper and just poured it into a jigger and measured out a 1/4 of an ounce and poured that to a single glass of wine. And it's crazy how much texture and flavor it adds to that wine, because our bitters are glycerin based. They're viscous, they're thicker than alcoholic bitters. And one of the things that you're missing in non-alcoholic wine is that body texture. And so if you do go heavier on the bitters, you're adding texture back to it, and you're adding a ton of flavor. So anyway, long story short, with the mole bitters, I would start with 1 dropper and go up to 3, 4, 5. kind of tasting as you go to get to that sweet spot, whatever it is that you prefer. You can overdo it. You can add too much. So kind of, taste it as you go and figure out what is best for you.
Great advice. Any other questions in the chat or anything? I just make sure we have a chance. Thank you. Oh, you're so welcome. Yes, Ian, thank you so much for the amazing amount of information, for walking us through these drinks tonight. This is so
and I'm
fun.
sorry, it was probably too much info, but
no, it's not too much. I feel like we got a PhD tonight in the sours. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I will say, for anybody who's, if you need some, never enough information. It's true. There's never enough information. This was awesome. 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 In the PDF, you guys have links to like the different products that we use tonight. And then every Thursday night, I have a happy half hour. Ian's not in our happy half hour normally, but maybe one night maybe we'll have you come in one night. Yes, you can make a drink with us. You and Carly, that would be so much fun. But on Thursday nights, I have a membership for women who are just interested in learning about more mocktails and being connected to other women who are on an alcohol-free journey or just curious about non-alcoholic drinks. You guys are welcome to join. It's thrivingalcoholfree.com. And it's $7 a month right now. So I don't know when you're watching the recording, but it is going to go up, but it's $7 a month right now. So it's literally less than a cocktail, less than a bottle of wine for the whole month. Okay. Thank you, Haley. I want to make sure we answer any other questions, but I think it was so awesome, Ian. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for suggesting this. This was awesome.
This was so much fun. I know you guys are shipping 100 more boxes tomorrow, and probably even more now.
100 orders in the queue ready to go for tomorrow.
The chocolate will be gone. So if you want to try the chocolate mole bitters, I think my box shipped today. But if you want to order a box or order some bitters, now is the time, because those will be gone.
Certainly by the end of the week, I imagine.
And the lavender, I had that today with sparkling water and with a squeeze. I used my squeezer with lemon, and it was so good. The lavender bitters, just that alone, was so delicious. So anyway, big time cheers to you guys. Oh, Julie says her shipped today. Thank you guys for being here. It's so nice to see you guys here. And this was so much fun. So Haley, thank you for helping in the chat. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Ian, say thank you to Carly for helping clean up the mess.
I know.
And for being with the boys tonight so you could be here. So thank you for doing this evening. Really, really, really amazing.
So much for joining us.
This was awesome. So fun. Okay, I'm going to stop our recording. You guys have a great night. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye, you guys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you, everyone.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm going to stop our recording if I can. Goodness gracious, I'm so tech challenged.